Welcome back to Just Giants with Grump and the Cranky Fan, your favorite Giants podcast. I'm your host, the Football Grump. With me, as always, is Mike, the Cranky Fan, and it's Combine Week. Today, the day of this recording, Tuesday, February 24th, was the kind of like the arrival day of the Combine. I think it was just sort of opening press conference sort of situations. So big week in the offseason. Things are moving and grooving. How you doing, Cranky Fan?
Digging out of our blizzard. You had to go move to Charlotte and missed all the fun and games this
I
weekend.
sure did. I think you've got more coming too.
We have more snow coming, the rest of the week. I was down at Met spring training last week, and we were by the pool. It was 75 degrees and perfect. And a few days later, 20 inches in New York City. So yeah, rough. But spring is coming, and spring means not only better weather, but you know, the first steps in, upgrading this roster for next season. And that's what I'm getting excited about.
Yeah, it happens fast. You start playing around with mock drafts, when
Mhm.
you're bored at, 8 p.m. or whatever. And then the next thing you know, it's not so dark out at 8 p.m. And you're like, oh my God, the draft is in a week. And it's, the end of April. So in all of that, the Giants are going to be at the Combine in force. John Harbaugh, Joe Shane, to analyze college players before the draft. And before you can do that, you've got to analyze your own roster. So last week we went over the offense, where players are at, what position groups look like, contracts, how much longer some guys are here, guys who can possibly be moved on from. And now we're going to switch to the defense. And this is where it really gets nasty and weird. And I think part of this, Crank, going through all this, the defense is bad. Like,
Yeah.
it, I think, like, as a whole, when you loop like Dexter Lawrence in with the edge rushers, you can say like the defensive line is good, but it's not. Like, because when you separate out the edge rushers with the defensive tackles, like, and we'll start with the defensive line, Dexter Lawrence is it. There's nothing else in the middle, and there's nothing to stop anyone from running right up the middle on us.
And even that, he doesn't play every play, and he's not effective
And he
when he plays
shouldn't, because
super
he's
high.
getting
Right.
older. And, like,
So as you decrease the amount of snaps he gets, the worse the line gets right there.
yeah.
So
Oh, yeah. By the end of the game, he's getting worked on double teams. Whereas, in other situations, he can split a double team, run over a running back, and sack the quarterback all in one motion. By the fourth quarter, he's getting moved by two average starters on the offensive line. So
right.
let's start right there. Dexter Lawrence. And Joe Shane addressed, like, questions about, like, the Giants moving on from him today, and was like, where is this coming from? Like, I don't understand why people think we want Dexter Lawrence here. And right now, Dexter Lawrence is pretty cheap for a premier defensive tackle. And make no mistake, bad year or not, that's who we know him as. Last year is an outlier for now. We'll see how he shows up in 2026, but not that expensive. As far as defensive tackles go, I think he's like $20 million.
Expensive position, but relatively speaking.
Yeah, I think even if, like, there's no guaranteed money left. Like, if he gets hurt, they can just walk away from him. Like, they're totally free. So I mean, this is really the time to extend Dexter Lawrence. My thought. So you have him off the books in 2028. Next year, if you decide to cut him in 2027, you can save $20 million. If you want to do it this year, you save $13 million. Cranky Fan, do you want to move on from Dexter Lawrence in any capacity?
I do not. I think if they had making a commitment to kind of going through a full rebuild, yes. But I think that, you know, we said the last two episodes, we think there may be a glimmer of hope that this team might be a potential playoff team if things break right with new coaching and everything. I don't want to lose one of my two best defensive players right now. So I think we should keep him and still kind of build around right now and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I would be open to, like, so you look at him, he's 29 years old, right? So if I knew nothing else about Dexter Lawrence and I was just hired to look at this roster and look, like, where could we save money? How could we get better? Kind of thing. And, I would identify him as a possible trade piece, right? And then all you have to do is watch him and be like, well, this is this is a really good player on a really bad team. And so this defensive tackle group is already terrible. Like I said, this is like the only guy. So like you move off from him and you have to replace him anyway. So I mean that puts replacing him. It's going to be
on a rookie.
Exactly. I mean, like it's such a. When I look at this now, and like even if you don't extend Dexter Lawrence, like if you just are gonna wait this out for this year and next year, whatever, you can be like, okay, we'll hold on to him for that period of time, and then move off from. We'll just transition off of him. I mean, you're not getting anything for him at that point, which seems silly. But if you were to do that, I mean, you have the time now. You've spread it out. You can rebuild the rest of the roster. I'm looking at a defense full of holes, and I'm not willing to make a hole anyway. But I would be understanding if they put off giving him a contract extension until they move through training camp. Like at the very end of preseason, right before the regular season starts, put pen to paper, see what Dexter Lawrence shows up this summer. I mean, this is not Brian Dable's Sands Resort training camp anymore. This is John Harbaugh. They grade their practices. We're here doing football practices now.
This is boot camp. Yeah.
So, I mean, like, I don't know. Does that seem reasonable, or you think they're just going to go ahead and do the extension now if that's what he wants?
I think this entire roster is open for evaluation, and I think they'll wait till after camp, like you said.
Yeah. So
I really feel that. I think this is a new regime coming in. They want to see what they have. Again, it's about expectations too. If they evaluate the entire roster, starting 12, backups, everything they have going for, and they're like, this team is closer than we think. Again, I think that changes their thought process of locking people up. And I think, he'll be viewed as a more valuable piece. And I think you bite the bullet and you make the deal. But I don't think at this moment right now, even before their first draft, before anything else, they're going to do it at this moment and kind of tie their hands right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to look at last year as an anomaly that was injuries and a number of other things, and then just another losing season,
Dysfunction,
all crumpled into a down Dexter Lawrence year. And I'm not gonna sit here and expect him to get 10 sacks a year. I don't expect that to be every year, especially as he continues to get older. But I mean, there is also just outside of the numbers, just the film, and I expect that film to rebound. I don't think that he fell off a cliff. So I'm going to bank on that, and I'm going to build this roster around Dexter Lawrence rather than through him. So you look at the defensive line group as a whole, and this is I'm not going to break any news here. The Giants can't stop the run. Overall rushing the passer, they were not that bad. They were pretty okay. And you look at this defensive tackle group now. I'm just going to run through the remaining guys on the roster here. Roy Robertson Harris, 33 years old. He's a rotational, more interior pass rusher with minimal run stopping ability. He's not really a run game guy. And, for the purposes of 2026, he's off the books in 2027. You can save $3.5 million if you cut him this year. That's just throwing that out there. Nacho. Expired contract. He was kind of the run stuffing guy next to Dexter Lawrence, about an average defensive tackle in that regard. High motor player, but if he's a starter on your team, you've got problems. If he's a rotational piece of your defensive line, you're doing things right. He was a starter for us, and he's now gone, and now he's also 33 years old. I don't even know if you want to bring him back. Darius Alexander, guy you drafted last year in the 3rd round, is already 26 years old, coming off a fairly rough rookie season. I mean, the money, you don't even care. He's on a rookie deal for a 3rd round pick. It's nothing. He's growing, but again, this is another guy that's an interior pass rusher style defensive tackle, not a run stopper, and he wasn't very good last year. DJ Davidson was 28-year-old. He's the big body rotational nose tackle. He's replaceable, whatever, but that contract's expired. Casey Rogers is kind of a practice squad player. That contract's expired. And Elijah Chapman, 25 years old, but he's super undersized. They move him in at fullback at times. He works his leverage really well, but again, another guy that you're looking at more as a pass rusher than a run stopper.
Mhm.
So, I mean, give me your thoughts based on everything I said. I mean, right now you're looking at a roster of Dex, Rory Robertson Harris, Darius Alexander, and Elijah Chapman, and that's it.
The combination of it being just so lopsided between pass rushing versus run stopping and just being bad is just frightening. I mean, I think really someone like Darius Alexander, his only thing he's got in his corner is that he's cheap. Otherwise, he'd probably be on the way out also as a cut, but because he's just so cheap, that gives him in this team the slightest bit of value to keep him. Other than that, it's like we're almost starting over. And, you know, how do we want to allocate our funds like in free agency? I mean, this to me feels like one of the most important needs, but how much can you really get for anybody of any value, you know, inside? It may be something where we have to go draft heavy and just have patience.
I mean, I look at this and I'm still betting on Dexter Lawrence being like a top 5 defensive tackle. I'm
Yeah.
betting on that, and but again,
But even if he's top 12 or something, that's still, the best guy we have right now.
oh, unquestionable. And then you look at what you have with Roy Robertson Harris, Darius Alexander, and Elijah Chapman are kind of like three guys at three different ages with three different levels of experience, all doing the same thing, and that's rushing the
Yeah.
passer from the inside. So, I mean, I look at this, and Nacho's departure is not really a tearjerker or anything like that, but it's already a putrid run defense. It brings an even bigger hole. And then big bodies like DJ Davidson that you're just throwing in there to stop the run. That wasn't getting it done. They have to be like legitimate defensive tackles that can use their hands. You can't just throw a big body guy out there unless he's like your fifth defensive lineman that's just in there for rotation to give a blow. To me, you got to add two run stoppers here. One to start immediately. Forget rushing the passer. I think on the defensive line and the edge, I think we're good. Stopping the run is a problem.
Yep.
Forget rushing the passer now. Go out there and get someone to start. And that could be a premier draft pick, right? Maybe it is. I don't know. I didn't look at all the defensive tackles yet. But I don't think it should be the high. Like, you shouldn't be breaking the bank for this. Just someone to start. Like a couple years ago, they got Ashawn Robinson, aging vet, but a savvy vet with good
You
technique,
can
whatever.
you
Yeah,
can plug him and
100%.
you can play right now.
Yeah. Second one has to be your rotational guy, someone on Nacho's level. That could easily be later in the draft, day 2, even early day 3 draft. That's a cheaper free agent signing, and that allows somebody like Ashawn Robinson to be good enough to be a starter, even if he's at an advanced age or whatever, is because you can rotate those two guys. Plus, you have your pass rushers for those situations, and now you have an actual rotation. But they have to be bona fide, man. Like, you got to get
That
real
feels like a
people.
cut down guy, that role. Somebody who just doesn't want to spend the money and they just have to cut him for financial reasons and we can find
The
him.
the rotational depth one.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Totally could be.
Mhm.
And that's one of those things. You look at rosters as they grow after the draft around the league, and you start to circle some names on other rosters.
Mhm.
Let's move over to the edge position. We got an interesting conversation there as well, and I'll just lead with it, and it'll be a separate conversation. So
Yeah.
you've got Kayvon Thibodeau, right? He's 26, which is crazy. It's I do keep forgetting how young he is. It feels like he's been here forever.
Well, something, Grump, something we're gonna have to kind of get used to in this NIL world of college. Guys are going to stay in college a little longer. And
Mhm.
these guys that come out that were 21 are going to start coming out at 22 and 23. They try to increase their draft stock going forward. So I think you're going to see the situation of guys like, oh, it's their fourth year, but they're 26 already, happening more and more.
Well, it's his fifth year. He's playing on his club option right now.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, like he came out at 21, right? So at that time, like because of the COVID year, a bunch of guys were coming out way later because they got this freebie year. So
That
like
too.
we were
Yeah.
seeing some 25-year-olds and 26-year-olds. I had forgotten that, like, but to your point, like NIL years, now guys don't have to choose. It's just like, oh, I could stay and increase my draft stock and risk injury, or just go early. and
Or get the
forgo my
guaranteed payment right
exactly,
now if they stay. Yeah.
instead of being a senior. So yeah, you'll see a lot more people staying to senior year, I think.
Hmm.
But whatever, 50. So he's still young. 26 years old is still growing, still developing. I think it just is entering prime. Um, I would say he's a balanced starter at the edge position. I think he's pretty good at rushing the passer, but he's by no means elite, or even like great at it. I would say he's pretty good at it.
Solid.
On the run, I would say he's a little bit better as a run stopper, probably closer to great. He's a good run stopper. I think on most rosters he's a starter. I think because you've got Brian Burns and Abdul Carter, he's the third rotation. And then that starts the conversation of, is it good that your first guy off the bench is as good as Kayvon Thibodeau? Unquestionably, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. It maximizes what you get from Burns and Carter because you can rotate them. You don't have to have Burns out there every single snap. You can save him for second and long or third and long or whatever.
Well, especially in the NFL where people get hurt all the time, and
I mean, that
we're
goes without
so
question, right?
we're so concerned about the inside with the rushing, defense, everything. Something has to be good, and all of a sudden, if there's an injury, Brian Burns is out for 4 weeks or whatever. Bringing in a guy who's replacement level, you know, 4/5 of what he is very important. Otherwise, this defense goes to total shit.
And another thing to just I just don't think people think about this enough. Is Brian Burns doesn't have to have a bona fide like 4 week injury. It's things like he can have a nagging injury that actually allows him to rest. Where it's like he's still active for the game, but his snaps are severely decreased because you've got a guy that can fill most of those shoes. Like you said, be 4/5 of him. It allows him to heal faster. Whereas, like, you don't have this guy, he's going to either push through the injury and possibly really aggravate it. I mean, like, that's another thing there. But really, talking about Kayvon is he's going to hit the open market at the end of this year. You've got a $15 million club option right now. So the time to start, doing extension talks and stuff, it's this year. But you do have the franchise tag in your back pocket, which I think is something like 20 something million projected for this year. We don't know about next year yet.
It's a lot for a backup.
That becomes the question. Is he a backup? Is he rotational? Does he mean more to you than that? How do you want to do? I mean, like, franchise tag or not, it's not like he's going to come cheap.
Right. Do you want to overload your, a high percentage of your cap on one position and three guys, basically? Because Abdul Carter, soon enough is going to have to get, they're going to extend him, I would think. And, you know, and obviously Brian Burns is getting paid a lot. So it's a tough decision.
Well, I mean, like,
for a team that needs a lot and has so limited assets, or, what do you do?
So,
what do you think?
I mean, we'll talk about the money and stuff as I'll work Abdul Carter and Brian Burns into that in a second. But there's a separate question of Kayvon Thibodeau and what you think of him and what you want out of him, what you expect, and what you're willing to spend for. Would you trade him, for instance? Is this a luxury that you can afford, but only for now?
I think he's like a borderline luxury necessity. I think what the offer for him will tilt it in one way or the other.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's fair.
I think he's a guy that unfairly, because of his, what he was in college and his personality, and I think kind of the media perception that people thought he was going to be more than he actually was.
I think also his draft position. People,
that's what I mean. All of it kind of combined is like, he should be a Pro Bowler. He should be one of the top 3 or 4, edge guys in the league, and he just isn't that. But again, a lot of people don't pan out what you think. But I think because of all of those things, because he was a flashy guy, and because he was a media guy, that people expect more and are more disappointed because of that. But as far as his actual value, again, I really think it kind of depends on what his market is out there. I would like to keep him personally, but I feel like somebody out there might overspend for a guy like him and still think there's a lot of potential, untapped potential. And you knock my socks off with a guy like him, I would do the deal, but I wouldn't go in looking to trade him.
So what if you got a phone call and the offer is a third?
No, I think I keep him.
Okay. What if it's a second?
Depends on the team. If it's a high second, I'm really listening. If
Okay.
it's, Seattle, for example, that's like basically a third, probably not.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it's insane to be saying this, right? But
Mhm.
there's so many holes on this defense that getting assets makes sense. Getting rid of a backup for assets to address all the holes makes sense. But there's two problems with that. Number one is I don't really believe in filling holes with draft assets. Like, I don't
Right.
want to, oh, cool, I got a third round pick. Now I'm going to count on this third round pick to be, I don't know, the starting outside corner opposite Paulson Adebo. I just don't work that way. That's not reality to me. Like, you
Mhm.
backfill with that. So, like, you could theoretically replace Kayvon's position as the third edge rusher with the third round pick. Now, is he going to be as good as Kayvon? I seriously doubt it, right? Like, I don't want to undersell him that much. Like, he's a good player. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
he's a starter on most teams. But the third edge rusher position, as it were, and what you want out of it from a bare minimum, you could replace that with a third round pick. But that's what you
This,
should be doing. Like you should
yeah, this is
third
gonna take
round
a
picks
couple of
should be
years.
background pick.
This is gonna take a couple
Depth
of years to
guys.
get this defense right, and I want to maintain the one strength that I have, and the strength of this
And
team
that's
right
where I
now.
land. Yeah.
Yeah, it's why kind of bring that down to the level of everything else before we build everything up? It's like I know I have something strong here. I know I have two very solid starters. I know I have a guy I can bring off the bench and rotate in, or if there's an injury, he just fills in. I don't want to lose that right now. And again, this may be if this was year 2 or 3 into this regime, it might be a different way to look at it. Like we can afford to trade him. We have everything else, but that's the strength of this defense right now. And I don't think I want to get rid of that unless you come in with something and I'm just like, I can't say no.
Okay, so and here's another element to that, and we'll start to work in Carter and Burns. Number one
Mhm.
is if you do trade him, you are working $15 million off the books this year, which can be used to address that third pass rusher position pretty well. I think, in fact, for that amount of money, you can probably get your third pass rusher and that backup defensive tackle, or even that starting defensive tackle, depending on. You could get two players to fill two roles just for the money that you're getting off the books. Then you get a draft asset to fill in behind. That is something that is to be discussed.
Sure.
Um,
It's the potential to get them. It's no guarantee you get them though.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, like, and again, like with these trade conversations that you're having around the leagues, like you're poking and prodding. At the same time, be working those phones around the league for free agents, defensive tackles, and know what their worth is. If that's not
Mhm.
going to work out, if that's only going to get you, you know, if you're basically trading Kayvon for Kayvon because the money saved is going right into replacing him, then you've screwed up. Like,
Right.
to me, I mean, you have a young player right now. And here's the other thing. And now let's work Carter in. Carter is still on his rookie deal. Now it's a top five, what is he, a third overall pick. So it's still a
Mhm.
high one. It's $10 million this year. Don't get me wrong. But as far as edge rushers go that wreck things, it's cheap. Okay, Brian Burns is hitting his highest cap hit right now, but he is also coming off of a career year. He's 28 years old. His cap hit is $36.5 million, right? And that's what it is next year and the year after. But here's the deal: 2027, you can save 14 and a half if you move on from him when he is 29. 2028, you can save 25.5 million and move off from him with basically 11 million in dead cap in 2028 when he's 30, right? So now you start thinking about Kayvon Thibodeau and thinking about building a different defense under John Harbaugh.
Mhm.
Does Brian Burns at 30, is he still the same player? Is he worth all this money? Do you want guys like Kayvon that can play the run maybe a little bit better and play the pass a lot worse? But still play it well. Like, do you want to possibly extend Kayvon and work your way off from Brian Burns. Like, just let that contract expire or even end it early.
It's a lot easier to have the conversation about moving off Brian Burns if you still have Kayvon Thibodeau on the roster.
Exactly. And
that's it.
And you can, like I said, like, think back to those Ravens defenses, right? Like, a big guy in the middle on the defensive line, right?
Mm-hmm.
Essentially an all-pro middle linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of prototype, like, everyone looks like Ray Lewis in some way, shape, or form, but none of them were Ray Lewis. And then you have, like, edge rushers like Terrell Suggs, right? Like, those kinds of guys. Like, does Terrell Suggs really remind you of Brian Burns, who's like a speed guy with bend around the edge?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
I a little bit. You know, I don't know.
Bit.
I just think that they were better run defenders in general.
Right.
And I think that John Harbaugh is going to not move off of Brian Burns. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he sees Brian Burns and is like, this is not what I like. I am rigid. But I think it's just like, it's just like, in 2 years, do I want to be spending $36.5 million on something that doesn't fit what I usually like to do? I can just use those years to draft somebody that's more in that mold, let him sit behind Brian Burns, and then just transition off of him.
And the expectation in 2 years that this defense has a lot better talent level overall, so it's not.
It better.
It better, because right now, again, going into 2026, the loss of Dexter Lawrence is a significant loss. The loss of Brian Burns is a significant loss. The expectation is in 2 years, more talent surrounding and behind that. All right, if I want guys that fit exactly what I'm trying to do, and if it's not, you're in a position you can do that or have options for it.
Yeah. Into some other backup guys here. Chauncey Golston plays an interesting role here because he's 28 years old. He is under contract for $7 million, and he kind of plays an interior-exterior defensive line thing. Like, he can move into, like, defensive end and play hand in the dirt. He can play out more on the edge. But he is your run stopper kind of guy. And he is still young, $28 years old. He's under contract for this year. It is what it is. 2027, you can save $5.5 million moving off from him. But he does kind of factor into this, like, if you want to move on from Kayvon, because, you could probably rebuild Kayvon in the aggregate with another kind of guy, maybe a little bit better than Chauncey Golston. And have those be your 4 or 5? No, 4 guys.
4 guys.
But here's the thing. That's like one of those things that I look at on paper and I'm like, yeah, you could do that. When I watched Chauncey Golston, like, I can't say anything bad about his game, but, like,
he's just there
for a guy who's supposedly like a run stopper, like, nobody stopped the run well last year. So, like, I'm not like penciling in Chauncey Golston as, like, part of this run game solution either. So, I don't like that plan personally. For me, Chauncey Golston is not factoring in too much into what I want to do with Kayvon and Brian Burns and all of that. You have Tamon Fox, 28 years old, unsigned under an RFA tender. Good special teams player, rotational depth. I mean, he's usually the first guy they call up when injuries really start to mount. He comes off the practice squad and gets meaningful snaps. So, worth talking about. Essentially, they tried to replace him with someone like Victor Dimukeji. That never worked last year. He kind of started the year on PUP, was injured the whole year, came off, got injured again, and that was it. His contract expired. But essentially, that was kind of trying to do something better than Tamon Fox.
What's the salary situation?
For who?
Fox.
Oh, it's like nothing. It's an RFA tender, so I think it's like $1 million. It's, yeah.
For $1 million, he looks a little more attractive. It's not a solution, but it's
depth.
Yeah.
Do you want to even touch this position this offseason? Are you okay just leaving as is?
I think there's so many other things at a higher priority. I think we just kind of let it lie for right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think you just sit there and see what the phone ringing does, and then you reevaluate. I mean, you have to do your due diligence on draft day, right? Like, if for whatever reason Ruben Bain falls into the second round because, I don't know, there's a video of him.
He's a Kane.
Yeah, whatever,
Doing Kane things.
Yeah,
Right.
doing Kane things. It's all about the you. Um, it's a Kane thing, and you just wouldn't understand. Um, yeah, so he drops to the second round. Now that's going to alter everything. So you should be open to pivoting and moving around here. But I agree with you. Sitting and playing chess, I'm just letting this one rest for right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Linebacker is a totally different story, though. Like I said, you look at those Ravens defenses, and people forget this too, because John Harbaugh was a special teams coordinator before head coach. John Harbaugh was a safety. All right. He played safety. I think he is a defensive guy, and he spoke today about the defense and how he's essentially trying to rebuild what he built in Baltimore. That's what he said at the combine. That's why he wanted Denard Wilson. He spoke highly of him. And
so before you go on, why don't you briefly say what that means to everybody? Like rebuild what he has in Baltimore. What's the elevator pitch of what that defense was in Baltimore?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, they stopped the run. I mean, he kind of presented it as like this uniform system, but like you look back, like they have defensive coordinators that ran different styles there, right? So like what we're talking about here is not schematic, I don't think, but it is the overall architecture of what a defense is, and I'm sure it's far more complicated than what I'm going to say, but I just look at it and like you stop the run right off the bat in the middle. Like these are big bodies on the defensive line. In the middle, always some nasty dude. Haloti Ngata. Think Haloti Ngata, right? Big dude, absolute animal in the middle, unstoppable. I think at one point Pro Bowler, right? Behind him, middle linebacker is the guy in this defense, right? Ray Lewis, Roquan Smith, I mean, like Patrick Queen, you go through it, that's what they have there. They have the middle linebacker there. And then behind him, a safety, Kyle Hamilton, Ed Reed. You know what I mean? Like they have it's down the middle and then on the outsides, right? And they prioritize stopping the run over everything else. Even on the outside, the corners I think are probably going to end up being long, and they're going to hit. There's not going to be this like missed tackle thing. I don't think we're going to see some shoulders into people. Like, you know what I mean? Like this is a team that plays downhill, and
it's hard and plays hard. And
yeah, I mean, like you look at those Steelers Ravens games in the like middle 2000s periods. Like I'm not really sure if I was watching football, rugby, or boxing. And
stopping the run is so important, even in our division, because we have, three other quarterbacks too that can run and move around. So that, when you're talking about stopping the run, it's just not stopping your traditional running game. It's making sure that you can keep these mobile quarterbacks in containment too.
Without question. Yeah. And I think overall, like this is like an impose your will kind of defense. And I think that's what he always ran in Baltimore, was someone that was going to come at you hard with their defense and just kind of break your spirit. Like all your little cutesy gadget plays, like I'm going to smack you around. That's what's going to happen right now. You know what I mean? You can run all sorts of noodly, whatever. I'm going to hit you into the dirt. And I know, I don't know, when we get to linebacker here, like you look at Bobby Okereke, and is he Ray Lewis? Is he Patrick Queen? I don't know. The 30 years old, he costs $14 million, but you could save $9 million if you cut him. He's apparently the leader. I think he is pretty well liked in the locker room. I try not to be too hard on any of the players for not being leaders under Brian Daboll. I think it's just hard. I think it's impossible, actually. But experienced, athletic, but I think he's getting older and slower, right? He has ability, but when he misreads something, he just looks slow because he's a step behind and he's not going to recover. He's not, the greatest downhill run stopper either. He's fine, again, like just nothing great. By far and away, he's the best linebacker on the roster, though. And that therein lies this problem. And this is sort of like a problem throughout the defense. Like he's your guy, you're spending lots of money on him or whatever, like you're spending $14 million on him, and like
the bar isn't very high.
Yeah, but
Basically.
also if you get rid of him, like now what do you do? Like Jesus. Um, I think that this is one of those things where I think he's gone. I
Oh,
think he's gone. I think that in remaking the defense, I think you don't have to do too much on the defensive line or the edge position. The linebacker spot, you have to do a lot. And I think that you got to make one big swoop. I think you
right.
probably, there are some cuts besides this one that save money. And that money goes to somebody that maybe it's even a guy who's getting older and is just covering this base for 3 years, you know, to
I I
to
tend to
draft his
agree with you.
replacement.
I think I think this is the position group that's going to be identified as we're doing the rebuild now because it
Mhm.
is so important. Because if
Right.
you know the linebacker core is good, that makes up for some of the sins of the defensive line. It makes up some of the sins of the secondary.
Mhm.
Ben, you know, having middling guys right now is not going to cut it in this defense. So I think I agree with you. I think they're going to pull the band-aid off with Okereke and just start, you know, get stopgap guys who are, you know, as good, cheaper price maybe as they transition and make this position a priority like in drafts going forward.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that there's a linebacker that people really like, Sonny Styles, that's in the conversation for the top 10. Um, and that's one of those things where like you move on from Bobby Okereke, you get Quincy Williams, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Somebody like Bobby Wagner, just like old, but he can start. He's smart. He can play. He's a veteran. And then like you let this guy grow behind him or next to him or whatever, and you rebuild this from because it is a mess. Um, and looking at Micah McFadden, contract expired, 25 years old. He's coming off a season-ending injury that happened very early in 2025.
Mhm.
Above average run defender. I think he triggers quickly. He fires through gaps pretty well. In coverage, athletically limited, but not garbage. Like he's your average star. He's pretty good. He's fine. Micah McFadden, pretty good. Um, the biggest thing about
Potential
him,
for a discount for him because of the injury.
100%. Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Hmm.
First of all, the full progress of his recovery. That's
Hmm.
for starters. So you have the inside track on that injury. So if you feel good about it, other teams don't. But you know him, and
Right.
they don't. So yeah, I think that he could be really cheap.
Hmm.
Or whatever, like cheaper than he would have been.
Or maybe just a short term, like a quick, like a 1 year contract, approve it contract, so to see if he's, you know, healthy and he fits in your plans.
It's just one of those things where he was a late draft pick in the 5th round. He had a rotational role. He had a good year where he got better. He was coming into having a good 2025, and before the season started, got hurt. That good year is remembered more by us than any other team. So I don't think he's going to be
Mhm.
commanding a lot of money around out there.
Right.
So I
Right.
think it's just the matter of it'll probably be in everybody's best interest if he signs like a 2-year deal. And you draft somebody high, you cut Okereke, you sign somebody like a veteran, you re-sign McFadden. It's probably minimal money. It's a high draft pick, but now you've rebuilt. You have two
Mhm.
positions, you've got 3 guys, right? Other than that, you've got Darius Muasau, 25 years old. He only costs $1 million. Athletically pretty gifted in space, but he's a step behind too often. He's a below
Mhm.
average tackler. His run stopping ability is below average. To me, he's rotational. I don't like seeing him as depth or whatever. I'd rather him be special teams. You know what I mean?
Okay.
First and
Mhm.
foremost. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah.
Um, you have Chris Board under contract, 31 years old. He is a former Raven, 2024. Cost $3.3 million. You can save two if you cut him, but he showed decently in rotational duty. Like when he had to come in there for injuries, he did not look terrible. Mostly a
What
standout special teams player, though.
what's the savings on him? You said he's the $3 million
Savings are two.
savings or two.
Yes, you take a 1.3 dead hit if you cut him.
Hmm.
I
That
mean,
looks
he,
like a
he is a good special teams player, though. I can't separate them out because they usually are linebackers or DBs, but I
seems like
think
an opportunity to save a couple bucks.
it does. Um, Harbaugh does, we'll see. I wouldn't be shocked if he sticks around just because he's a special teams guy. He's a former Raven. You
Hmm.
know, saving $2 million, it's such a minimal amount of money. There's probably other ways to save that money, unless it's down to your last $2 million. So I wouldn't be shocked either way. I'll say it like that. Other than that, you've got a bunch of guys on expiring contracts, and they're all guys I don't really care about either. Like Demetrius Flanagan Foles, 30-year-old rotational guy, mostly special teams. Neville Hewitt, expired, 33 years old, depth. Swayze Bozeman, 29. I think he's on an RFA tender, depth player. Same thing with Zaire Barnes, except he's 27.
Can we get younger? Can we get younger, cheaper versions of all these guys?
Yeah, I think that's the move.
Potential for upside as opposed to just when you're 29 and 30, you are what you are.
Yeah, I agree. But I really do think that they're going to make big swings at this position. I think this is where
I agree.
Everybody's looking at, defensive tackle. I think is maybe a little bit easier to fix than other people. You can just get 2 medium-sized contracts there, and suddenly you can stop the run. This linebacker group, you got to make a big move. You got to make a splash.
This swings everything. Again, it's support up front, it's support in the back, it's making plays over the middle. I think this is the biggest position group needs to be upgraded.
Yeah.
Solidly.
Yeah. And honestly, should have probably started last year.
Mm-hmm.
Moving up to the corner position, outside corners only. This is another weird spot. This defense sucks. Paulson Adebo, he's your big contract guy, 27 years old, in his prime. He's going to cost you $24 million. Before everyone freaks out and is like, oh, it was a terrible contract. It's really a 2-year deal. It was last year, this year. Next year, you save $14 million if you cut him. It was a disappointing 2025 for him, but likely an ideal fit in Denard Wilson's new scheme, where he can play a little bit off, he can jump underneath things.
It was disappointing, but kind of what we expected of what we would see from him.
I agree. Yeah, he's a boomer bust kind of player. He fouls sometimes. He undercuts other times. He's just late in coverage other times. Like it's just, he's not a lockdown corner. He's a good starter, is what he is.
Right. And you have to overpay to get good starters. You pay for what you perceive to be a lockdown starter, and he's just not.
A good starting outside quarterback is always going to cost a lot of money. Opposite from him last year was Cordell Flott. His contract has expired. People forget this, but he's 25 years old. So he's been here since Joe Shane has gotten here, and he's only 25. So one of those things, he is very highly experienced for his age. He has a ton of NFL experience under his belt. Fast cover corner, solid man coverage skills and ball skills, aggressive and physical, but not strong, only like 170 pounds. He's very light. Some coverage lapses at times as well. And on top of that, you only have 1 year of real production, and that's last year. Another thing I think is not talked about a lot, injury issues for all of his career except last year.
Cordell Flott, I think, is a guy that's probably gonna command a lot on the open market, but I think, I know he's a small guy. I know he's, maybe an issue with some of these things, but he had an intangible thing that I really liked about him. And being here from before, I think you try to make a run to keep him, honestly. I don't know. I wouldn't overpay for him, but I definitely think you put a bid out there for him to try to keep him.
I think he's gone. I think
he is too.
I think man cover guys are coveted. I think people look at it. Certain defensive coordinators are more worried about everything else, and like, I'll play man all the time with this guy and just throw him the hell out there, and whatever. I'm happy with those skills, especially at 25. I can do all this with him, and I can teach him this, and he's still yeah. So I just think he's gone. I think he's an expense that the Giants perhaps could afford but shouldn't. And also, like I said, like he's not like. It's not like he's a bad tackler form-wise. It's that he's 170 pounds and he just gets run over.
I think he's going to be gone. I think he's going to be gone too. I would make an effort to try to keep him, but I think he's going to be gone.
Okay, and then let's flip over to Deonte Banks. Then he's still here, 25 years old, $4 million, fully guaranteed. So you save nothing by cutting him. Effort questions, seeming inability to ever develop. Apparently has some use as a kick returner, kind of. Yeah, I mean, he's a bad corner who loses at the release and press man. He does have some level of man coverage ability, but like for me, with the effort questions, he can't even serve as a rotational piece because as soon as he goes in there, he gets targeted and he's bad. And I think you're better off, like the Giants did this too. It's like you're just better off putting Corey Black out there because you know at least he's trying his hardest on every single play, right?
Since he feels like he's kind of like free, doesn't matter if you keep him going. You think the staff might be like, maybe I can unlock this guy. Maybe there's a something about him that we flip a switch with him that they try. Because I agree with you. I think he's useless, and I would get rid of him because I've been around him for, since he's been here. But a new staff coming in, fresh slate, maybe see something in physical traits that it might be. I may want to take a flyer on it.
Well, I mean, I'll say a couple things. Number one, they'll see a 25-year-old, right? Which is he's still young.
Mhm.
I think also separate from Deontay Banks himself, I think John Harbaugh is going to come in here and his sole focus will be less on the individual player, and his sole focus will be on like setting up his practices, right? And the guys that respond to his teaching methods will continue to grow, and the guys that grow will stay. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you grow, you'll grow to be within that 53 that sticks around. I'm not saying like because you learn you'll end up staying, but I think because you learn you'll end up developing into. I mean, like there's holes all over this fucking defense. It's begging for somebody like Deontay Banks to just grow up and play the position he can play. You know what I mean? Like there is a hole. He's a first round pick. It's that position. It's literally his job. His job is sitting there for him to take. So I mean, like they can't move on from him. You know what I mean? Like he has no trade value. Cutting him loses $4 million, and like you're not strapped up against the ceiling here. But like you want to use that money. Like you don't want to waste $4 million just to get rid of a guy, to pay somebody to not be on your roster. So like I think they're just going to go into it with like he's 25. Let's see if we can make a starting corner out of him, or at least a backup, just anything. Like
I agree. I mean, it's a free flyer. And again, if this was the old regime, he probably would not be back. But this is a new regime. Let's see if we can squeeze any lemonade out of the lemon at all. Because it doesn't cost us anything to make the squeeze.
Yeah, because behind him, you've got, in my opinion, honestly, you've got crap. Like, I like watching DB film. I'm always the one who's optimistic. I'm like, I think this guy can grow. He's like got the traits that I look for. I look at this Corey Black, 24 years old. Again, 24. I'm never gonna sit there and be like terrible, garbage, whatever. Right? Corey Black could become something. He got some late NFL experience late in 2025. He got some game experience. That's definitely something. Let's see how he grows. He's on the books. He's a whatever. He costs basically nothing, $1 million. But then everything is like Art Green, 26 years old. Jarek Bernard Comfrey, 26 years old. Rico Payton, 27 years old. These guys to me are special teams value only. Like I see nothing here. Nothing that's going to be like, if he's out there at corner, like we're fucked.
It's
like
salvageable, or we can work with these pieces. You don't see any of that. Yeah.
No. And so like I'm left looking at this god awful roster, right? It was like you have Paulson and Debo who you're like hoping can be more boom than bust this year in Denard Wilson's scheme. Deontay Banks, you hope can do the job you drafted him to do like 3 years ago, and Corey Black to back them up. I mean, like it's
one of the worst secondaries in the league.
It has to be, right? Like it just can't not be.
And then if you combine that with the fact we couldn't stop the run, I mean, God help us. It's amazing we didn't get our asses kicked, even get blown out of more games than we did.
And that's the other thing, too, with Deontay Banks is like you sit here and talk about how Cordell Flott's 170 pounds. It's like Deontay Banks isn't a bad tackler in the sense of like when he goes into tackle. It's A, effort, and B, if he can actually set a edge properly and not let guys just run around him. I mean, like it's the mental stuff with him is all of it. It's not physical problems with Deontay Banks, not really anyway.
Right.
So you look at this, and I'm sitting here saying they're going to make you can replace defensive tackles pretty cheap, and you have to make a big swing at linebacker. I got to be honest, bro. I don't know what the hell you do at corner. I really don't know.
I think they're gonna try all their best to see if they can get anything out of Banks and hope for the best, that he can be at least someone we can plug in for a year. When, in 27, maybe they put more resources into the secondary. But I think, you know, that's kind of the situation we're in. You can't fix everything in 1 year. And some things can be prioritized over others. And this might be one that kind of falls back, unfortunately. And we hope we can stop the run more this year. We hope we can have more the pass rush is consistent. We can hope that all these things that can help these corners, make their lives a little easier too. Because again, we weren't doing them much of a favor, those corners, with the way the rest of
No.
the defense played.
Yeah.
So maybe if everything, we can give a little more support to them, so it's not them always just on islands by themselves trying to save the world.
You know what I think honestly is going to happen here, because Denard Wilson's going to run a complicated defense that disguises coverage, and I got to be honest, they're going to give Deonte Banks a chance to sink or swim, but I don't think they have a whole lot of hope that he's going to swim, because it's going to be confusing enough even if he could play the position, and so far he can't even handle playing the position in a vacuum, right? I think they're going to go. They're going to get two veterans, I think, that are around the league considered to be first guy off the bench. They're going to pay those two guys smaller contracts, and they're going to let the three of them compete for the open spot, the backup, and the backup. And it's probably going to be vet 1, vet 2, Deonte Banks in that order. And Corey Black may jump Deonte Banks.
That's very possible. Yeah. We have a new independent set of eyes looking at Deonte. They don't looking at him now as first round pick Deonte Banks. They look at him as guy fighting for roster spot.
Player X. I mean, his name doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
There's no attachment there. Now, sticking with the secondary, moving on to defensive backs. I combine slot corners in here because modern defenses are tricky. So I just think it's easier to just separate outside corners from the rest of the defensive backs. So let's just start with slot corner. Andrew Phillips, 25 years old, aggressive, physical, downhill nickel. Really good athleticism, speed, and quickness to start, but does have struggles with slot receivers downfield. Can get a little grabby and man coverage to at the bad time when guys get behind him. He lets guys get behind him. He is still on a rookie deal, and he is still 25, $1.6 million, basically nothing. He's, I don't want to say exceeded expectations, but he is a bona fide starter in my opinion. Do you agree?
Yes, I agree.
Behind him, basically, as your backup slot corner is Nick Jones, 25 years old, depth, upside mostly just depth. He's on an ERFA tender. Basically telling you right now that there's no backup slot corner.
That sounds like a problem.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Jones is probably, I mean, like I said, he's 25, so we'll have to see how he's grown as a player in a year. He might have made the leap, right, from like special teamer to, backup slot corner.
We have a lot of guys in this roster in that 25, 26-year-old range that they're still young, but it's getting late early.
Correct. But again, like and what's crazy, like the good thing is that all those guys are really on cheap deals. So it means nothing to be like, for this guy, let's hang on to him for like a year.
Let's have him go through boot camp for the summer and really evaluate and see what they are, as opposed to just, well, there's a number, we have to cut that number.
Yeah. So then let's hop into the safety position. Javon Holland, big money guy, 26 years old. You look at his career, he's never really been a high stats guy. Not a productive guy statistically. He is an athletic safety. You were kind of hoping that the production was going to come. I don't know why you'd hope that when you didn't really care about the defense. But $18 million. In 2027, though, can be cut for $13 million in savings. So I think that this is probably going to be a little bit of a sink or swim year for Javon Holland. I'm not really sure that Javon Holland's going to fit this defense. I think they're stuck with him, and the safety position, as we go through it and we talk about it, we'll realize is weak and thin.
Feels like a cut next year for sure.
Yeah, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But again, never know. Could just need the right coaching to unlock talent. 26. Yeah. Tyler Newman.
Get a lot of money for this coaching staff. And
yes, and this players. Hopefully all our money can coalesce and work together, huh?
God Crazy concept.
Tyler Nubin, 25 years old, second consecutive disappointing season for the second round pick. Definitely worse than the rookie year, right? And the problems really started to show up, I think, in confidence. Tackling angles became on display. Taking really bad angles from deep, there's a spotlight on you. He's not a bad tackler.
Issues, or it's just the way he is?
No, it's coachable. And I think it's also the way you want to play him. I think you could move this guy into coverage more so around the box instead of deep. If you want to add Caleb Downs possibly to this position group, I think that transition is natural, is moving Tyler Nubin down into the box a lot more. And in your run heavy defenses, having whether it's Bobby Okereke, Micah McFadden, and him as your sort of linebacker set in those rundowns. And I think that he can handle coverage on tight ends really, really well. You know what I mean? But coming from deep, I think exposes some things with him. Whereas like in college, it was just be in the right place at the right time. Right. Things are just a little different at the NFL level, and also our defense is terrible. So when you're a safety, it's just a spotlight on you. Right. But $2 million rookie deal, I still remain hopeful that there's something here. I think this is a smart player, and I think Denard Wilson is going to work well with him. Nevertheless, I don't feel good about this, like either starter, right?
No. Yeah, I agree with you.
I don't see Ed Reed here.
No, I don't even see Willis Reed. I don't see
Austin Reed,
Reed Rothschild, or I don't see anybody. So it's bad. Really nice guy.
It doesn't get any better. Dane Belton, who was usually your first safety off the bench, his contract has expired. Still 26 years old. I always found him to be a solid rotational safety, right? Like if he's starting for you at the beginning of the year as you're starting 53, you're in trouble. But if he's starting for you for a game, you'll be all right. Strong production too throughout his.
Possibly get him back.
I'm not thinking it's very likely. Do I think that he fits what they want to do? And do I think that he... Yes. Do I think that he thinks he's going to command more money on the open market? Also, yes. I don't know what the price line is going to be for the Giants for a guy who, in my opinion, he's a good starter as a special teams player on, I think, like in all four teams. So you've got a special teams player right there. I think when he comes in as a third safety, as a rotate, like somebody's injured, I think he's good. If he's part of your your three safety regular package, maybe that's overuse. I'm not sure. He does have it's very he has boneheaded plays, and then he has the production. You go back to Iowa, and it's just this guy just has a lot of interceptions, and I don't know why. None of them are spectacular. He's not doing anything. They just come to him. And then you go to the NFL tape for his career, and it's the same shit. He's just playing safety, and balls come to him. He's just in the right place at the right time. He's not athletically superior than anybody. He just knows how to play the position. That's it.
So, having said that, it sounds like he's somebody who can have a lot of interest in people, but it doesn't sound like it's a very high dollar ticket.
Correct. So I would say it's possible. He changed his agency this offseason to get he got the premier DB agent guy for his agency. So he's looking for money. And that guy is very good at getting every dime. Where that line is,
doesn't mean I'm going to get it.
That's true. I agree with you. Personally, I look at this group and I don't like either starter right now. You could easily talk me into drafting Caleb Downs right now. Just forget the next month and a half, the next 2 months, right? The next 2 months, and that's your pick at 5. Just by looking at this roster. Mm-hmm. At the same time, I do like the idea of Dane Belton being part of rotation and being your special teams guy. I don't have a problem with that at the right dollar amount.
I agree. This is at best a stopgap collection of guys until we get better people going forward, and we can move some of these people out with a cheaper deal. So
yeah. And behind them is just Raheem Lane and Bo Braid, cheap depth players, special teams players. They're not really to be considered for your starting safety. So like I said at the beginning of this episode, this defensive roster is really bad. It's really bad. There's a lot of holes. We're looking at what? Would we say 2 defensive tackles at best? Probably 3 linebackers.
Yeah.
Um,
And maybe one guy in the secondary we feel really good about. Yes.
well, no, you need it. You're gonna need a
Oh, I thought
safety
you were
and
talking
2
about.
corners. So
I
3
see. I see
guys
what
in
you're
the
saying.
secondary, 2 linebackers or 3 linebackers. What did we say?
I think we said 3.
I think we said 3. 3 linebackers and 2 defensive tackles. So we're talking about like half the building.
God.
It's like 8 guys. Just
Doesn't
just
seem like
8.
Rome can be built in one day.
Yeah, really. So, um, I don't know. I don't know what you do. And you got to balance it out with everything we talked about last week with the offense. You've only got so much cap. You've only got so many draft picks.
But you have stability. You have a coach that's not going anywhere anytime soon. Who we can't look at this as a 2026.
Thank you. Correct.
It I know when Bobby was on a couple weeks ago, we were like, our expectation, this team, the expectation should be, kind of playoff or bust, and that's the goal for it. But as you start breaking down player by player, position by position, you know, they're not just little cosmetic changes that need to be made to make this team a playoff team. Um, you know, Fortunately, the other side of the ball presents some opportunities where, we might be able to outscore some teams potentially, but there's a lot of work to be done here. We're almost starting over. And don't look at it, don't look at this season as it has to be this year. I mean, we brought John Harbaugh in to rebuild this team and to be good for several years down the line. And that's the way I'm kind of approaching it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with everything you said. I think your approach day to day and your coaching and what you assemble as a roster, the expectation will be to get in the hunt for the playoffs. You should be in the playoffs because half the league gets in there. There's enough here and there's enough cap space
We,
that should happen. However, from John Harbaugh's perspective, there's a separate goal here. Is like that goal of reaching the playoffs next year is not or bust for you.
right.
So like you are building this. That's your goal once your moves are made. That's your job as a coach to get the players to do that. You are to build a roster for your time here. And that means 2027 and 2028 and 2029 and 2030. So, I mean, you need to make these moves. You have time to really play things out. Like we were talking about with Brian Burns' contract and how you want to maybe slow those pivot transitions to not be so rapid and rigid and awkward and turbulent and rather be a lot smoother. A very Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers kind of situation.
And also, I wouldn't be so concerned about being boom or bust year for Joe Shane either. I think Joe Shane already knows what his fate is on this team going forward. I don't think any decisions he's going to be making are going to be to help me keep my job here. I think he knows what his situation is going to be, and I think he'll be approaching the draft where, reporting to Harbaugh, wherever they're structuring it, with longer term growth and success than just gotta do it now or else.
Well, I mean, I think he knows that he's kind of auditioning for John Harbaugh this year.
Yeah.
And I think he knows that his role is to assist the head coach in analyzing players. This is the traits that we like for these positions. Report back to me. You know what I mean? Tell me what you think of, whatever. So, I mean,
Right.
he knows that his job is tied to how well he serves John Harbaugh. That is his job anyway. I mean, we sit here and nitpick over egos and who reports to who and whatever. The GM's job is to be the one that gets the players and gets the information about the players for the head coach to
Buy the groceries for the cook.
exactly right, like so whatever. I mean, I there is some level of like Joe Shane's job is Joe Shane's job. There is also some like Joe Shane's job has changed. He's not the man in charge anymore.
Right.
But regardless, in terms of his fate, I mean, what he needs to do to keep his fate here is to just basically do his job, which is what his job always was, which is to best serve the head coach with the best group of players information possible and go get them. Make those draft day trades for Jackson Dart. Go, extend Dexter Lawrence early so that he's the cheap best defensive tackle out there in the NFL. That's your job, Joe Schoen, not to run the show. Right. So that's going to do it for this episode. We'll be back next week. We're going to start talking about free agent possibilities, and we're going to keep splitting it up just the way we've been doing. So we're going to go back to the offense next week, and we're going to talk about possible free agent additions at the position groups that we talked about, and you won't want to miss it. So be sure to subscribe: iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, and of course YouTube. Until next time.
Beautiful mugs every week.
That's right. Yeah. All right. Until next time, go Giants.
Go Giants.